Eric okay? I mean, our dog's going to come and attack him in the throat. I hear dogs barking in the background, and now lights are going out behind him. Is he in that club from the movie?
Oh, shit, dude.
Cover your neck! Cover your neck! Boss! 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 Boss!
The VHS Files contain spoilers, adult content, and harsh language. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the VHS Files, everyone. We're closing out Green Month, and Nazi punks, fuck off.
Yeah.
Yes. Fuck you.
Tonight, we're doing a fairly new movie. Probably not the newest movie we've talked about on our show, because Terrifier is a little newer than this one. And Host. I forgot we talked about Host from last year.
Too.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, we talk about new movies all the time here. It's a normal thing.
Yeah, we jump from the 70s to 3 or 4 years ago, any given time.
Yeah.
But 2015, pretty much the peak of civilization. Right? Just before Trump came along, before COVID.
Oh, yeah.
2015 was pretty good.
It's weird to think that was only 6 years ago.
Well, 7 years now.
7 years ago. And life was so much better then. But yeah, I mean, we figured we would close out Green Month with a green movie. A movie that I think all three of us have seen in the theater together, which is going to be rare for this show, I believe. So this is going to be a fun conversation in that regard. Plus, a movie about bands traveling, playing shows, when Jason and I have been in a couple of bands together. And I'm sure we've got some stories to tell when we get around to certain parts of this. But
stories similar to some shit going on in this movie.
Tonight we're talking A24's Green Room, starring Anton Yelchin, Imogen Poots, and Sir Patrick Stewart. And yeah, this is an A24 movie as well. We've never talked really A24 stuff on this show because we typically talk about older stuff. But a company that has been making waves in horror and in film in general for the past decade, and producing some really good shit. And it would be ignorant of us to not recognize some of their movies and talk about them when we do a podcast about movies. One that I'm very excited for is X, which will be out by the time you guys hear this episode.
What do you think is on it?
I see one goddamn fucked up horror picture.
But I am very excited to see that, and that's coming from A24. You guys have any particular A24 movies that you like right off the top of your head?
Midsummer immediately comes to mind. Just on A24. Now it's almost become like a meme or a joke that, like, almost like IPAs, you know, you're you're like some kind of like you make fun of the A24 fan. You know, the fact is they're letting filmmakers come in and do original ideas.
Yes.
And giving them the freedom to, you know, to do what they want in a way that not a lot of other production companies have been, and to great results, you know. And you could say, oh, it's an A24 film, it's going to have XYZ, but yeah, I guess it might have more gore, more sex, more, you know, push the boundaries more, because it's not trying to reach a broader audience. It's really allowing people to tell stories how they want to tell them. So yeah, you're obviously going to get certain elements that you might see patterned across their lineup, but I mean, they've got an amazing track record. They're hot as hell.
I mean, you're looking at the filmography, looking at the movies they've produced over the years. I mean, there's more in there that I have seen and liked than seen and not liked.
Absolutely.
Now that I'm sure there are some stinkers in there. I mean, everybody's got opinions about movies, and some are good and some are bad. But I have kind of jumped on that A24 hipster bandwagon as of late. I'm like, I want to pick up all the A24 stuff, but like you brought up a good point, Eric. Like it's such a wide spectrum, and I believe it started with drama movies and maybe some of the like indie sci-fi stuff, but it's a company that produces a wide spectrum of genre. Like You can see all kinds of movies through A24, and a lot of them have this sort of, you know, hipster sort of connotation to them because they are typically movies that are elevated and things you have to think about a little bit more, and things that aren't going to tell you exactly what you want to hear when you're watching a movie or explain it to you. So that's where that sort of little ding comes in with people who are big into A24. It's like, oh, this guy must be into some weird fucking movies, you know?
Well, I think like out of the A24 movies I've seen, I probably haven't seen near as many as you guys have because I'm kind of in my own niche of movies. And
There we
yeah,
go.
you're a movie snob.
Yeah,
We
I'm a
established that
movie
on the
snob.
Leprechaun episode.
yeah, considering I'm saying that my movies are better than everybody else's because that's really what a snob is. I'm just saying I don't think that what the movies that everybody
You
else
don't
loves
have to
is
keep
good.
explaining yourself, Jason.
No, I'm
You've
explaining
already
myself, and I'm gonna have
explained
the
it.
last word, right? Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
But
It's okay if you're a snob, dude.
the A24 films, I actually the ones I've seen like The Witch, the Lighthouse, and stuff like that, and a few others. To
Mhm.
me, this is a little more tame.
In some ways, yes.
Yeah, as a
Yes.
mind fuck of a movie that most of these guys, men and women that direct these movies for A24, they had these weird twists, like old school M. Night Shyamalan, whatever movies type things, but take them even farther than he did. But this movie is kind of just a straightforward movie with a great story compared to
it's-
The Witch and Hereditary and stuff like that.
It's a straightforward movie, but you can't say that there's not a point in this movie where things take a turn for the worst and it kind of makes you take a drawback. Because, like,
Yeah, what this movie doesn't have is sex or nudity, which, you know, a
Right.
lot of their other notable horror films in particular have a lot of that type of
No.
stuff.
Mhm.
Penises and whatnot, you know.
Lots of penis.
There's no penises in this one. This one's penis free, but that doesn't mean that it's not good. Okay, Jason?
if you've watched fucking Euphoria on HBO, it's produced by A24, and there is penis all through that show. So,
Yeah.
yeah, they tend to take that to the extreme as well.
It does push the envelope with violence.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure.
But we've seen movies even more violent than this that dealt with that. American History X.
Sure.
That's
Sure.
some pretty gruesome stuff because I mean that movie still sits uneasy with me. I can still hear teeth on the concrete in that
Well,
movie.
that's
Yeah.
why this movie I think is very watchable, despite, you know, certain moments that are graphic. I find it very watchable and frankly pretty fun, like a fun watch. But you know, American History X is like a complete downer. Doesn't mean
Oh,
it's not a good movie,
yeah.
but this is, you know, these are the differences that, you know, like some movies are great, but you don't, you know, they're not fun to watch per se.
Yeah,
This one rides the line on it,
yeah
though.
it's there.
Because watching it a couple nights ago, I watched it with Jenny, and when the movie was over, she's like, that's one of those movies where when I've seen it, I don't want to watch it again for a while. You know, like, and I will say, sitting in my living room, dark, watching this movie, just me and my wife, and not really, you know, I've seen it a couple of times, but it's not one that I regularly revisit. There are still moments in this movie that make me fucking, whoa, like freak me out in a sense.
Yeah. Well, it rides that
there's-
edge of, you know, just pushing that, what you're comfortable with,
Yeah.
particularly with,
Right.
with some of the gross out violent.
The razor knife's edge.
Yes. You might say the box cutter's edge.
The box cutter is yeah.
But you also brought up a good point. We're talking about A24 and then, you know, letting filmmakers make their movies and not trying to reach a higher audience. That in the case for this movie, this had a budget of $5 million, only did $3.8 million. So this is a bomb.
These movies aren't expected to perform that way.
Right.
They're not pulling in Marvel money. They're not expected to
Right.
at all.
They're doing interesting things, not just with horror, but, you know, you've got Eighth Grade, you've got mid 90s, you've got
Spring Breakers. isn't that
Spring
on here?
Breakers.
Oh, yeah.
You've
Josh
got
loves that movie.
I love Spring Breakers.
The Disaster Artist. You got Lady Bird, you know, Florida Project. You've got just straight dramas too.
Yeah.
It's really great to see somebody giving these filmmakers an opportunity to make these stories. Some of the, I mean, I'm just looking at their list and it's just nuts. You go down the list of what's on there and you're just like, oh, those are all
And
great.
you bring up Marvel movies, and I remember Eric and I, have a mutual friend who has a friend of a friend that is a producer. And when Midsummer came out, they kind of invited some people to go watch it with him and talk about the movie and whatnot. That's what I was referring to, is we talked about doing that and we never ended up doing it. I think you ended up going to that showing, but I wasn't able to.
I didn't even know I was until it was over.
But I remember my wife, and she said she was talking to him at some point, and he was talking about how, Florence Pugh was great in Midsummer and whatnot, and he's like, well, she's doing a Marvel movie.
Yeah,
right
yeah.
now.
He said that to me after we watched Midsummer. I was like, boy, she was great.
It was you.
I was like, boy, she was great. The lead there. And he goes, yeah, she's working on a Marvel movie now, but he couldn't say anything else. So that was actually like a year before I even knew that she was going to be in the Black Widow movie. So it was just,
right.
It was, like, I didn't know, but it was like, oh yeah, that's what happened.
Right.
But
and who,
now she's a
and
household
would you
name.
have imagined, I mean, she was great in Midsummer, but would you have imagined like she would be at the stature she is now from her performance in Midsummer? I don't think I would have called that, but I'm glad to see that she's getting recognition. She's a great actress.
I didn't expect her to be an action star. She didn't give me action star vibes in Midsummer, but I thought she's excellent in Midsummer.
She was great in Little Women too. I think Greta Gerwig directed one. But yeah, that was actually I haven't seen any of the other Little Women, but that one was good. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing I like about A24 as well, is you get to see talent kind of grow within a production company like this, and then they go on to do the bigger, better things for Marvel or Star Wars or whatever it is. So it seems like A24 births a lot of stars right now as well.
And directors as well, getting a launching pad into bigger movies and things like that. So yeah, it's good stuff.
Which is crazy for this movie, considering how much I think this movie is amazing. The director hasn't really gone on to do anything more like more notable than this, from what I can tell. I know he did Blue Ruin, which I haven't seen, but I've heard it's good.
Jeremy Saulnier is his name. And I've seen Blue Ruin, which is great. I saw that before Green Room, actually. And then I've also seen Murder Party. I haven't seen Hold the Dark yet, which, have you seen that one?
I haven't. I saw the poster for it when I was looking at his stuff
with
today,
Jeffrey
but
Wright?
I don't even think I've heard of
Jeffrey
that
Wright's
one.
in it, stars in it. I need to watch that, dude. After watching this, I'm like, dude, what am I thinking? I need to watch that damn movie.
Yeah, I kind of want to go back and watch some of this guy's other stuff. I've been sitting on Blue Ruin for a long time, and when we went and saw this, I think you mentioned he did Blue Ruin, and had I seen it at that point, I hadn't, and
it's good, and it stars the guy that says I want to go to jail in this movie. Yeah, and Murder Party's just insane, fun horror flick. I think that's on Shudder, and he's in that one as well. But Hold the Dark I have not seen. Netflix movie from 2018, so pretty new.
And Jeffrey Wright, Jeffrey Wright's been killing it lately too.
You got to feel good about that. Also, he directed a couple episodes of season 3 True Detective.
But a rare occasion, this is a movie we all saw together in the theater. Not all three of us together, but I saw it with Eric, and then I saw it again with Jason.
Yep.
So, and I remember, like Eric mentioned briefly, like we walked out of the theater going, wow, like we did not expect.
We really were blown away. I remember walking out very vividly and just going like, dude, the arm scene. Like, we're just like, what the fuck was that? Like, that was crazy. Right. These movies, and I think around this time there were a handful of movies that when did Driver come out? You have these moments of extreme violence that come, it's like calm, and you're just like, holy fuck, like something crazy happens.
Right.
I feel like that was kind of almost a little trend back then, or since then. I don't know, but I just remembered that was the first thing we talked about was the arm when we walked out. We're just like, dude, that arm.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I want. Like, I'll start with this movie is the realism they try and set up in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, there's never a moment in this movie where I feel like I'm watching a movie. Other than the fact that I'm watching Jean-Luc Picard be a fucking Nazi. Like
you've seen him as a Borg. But have you seen him as a Nazi?
Well,
resistance is futile.
So you have a sense of realism that you can like relate to with like me and Eric there, Whereas there's the other sense of this movie where Jason and I have been in bands together. And then there's the sense of, we've been, not only is the realism there for that, we've done the shit that they're doing in this movie. And have probably been in a couple instances where if one thing would have happened wrong, it would have led down that path.
That's the thing that you get right off the bat in this movie is they establish a couple things. One, that immediately, you see the kids wake up in the cornfield. These kids are reckless, right?
Oh yeah.
They've passed out at the wheel. They didn't even wake up when the van crashed into the cornfield. So that they are reckless. They're making poor decisions. They're being, they're not blah, 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 blah. Spit it out.
It all starts with the band, and it was just about recreating that feeling of actually immortality and naivete and everything that you have when you're young and you're dumb and you're just rocking and rolling.
You've got the fact that they're young kids, and they're already going to have a different perspective on things than everybody else. But then you factor in the fact that yes, like they are traveling all the time. They're barely sleeping all the time. There is nothing in my fiber that like makes me not believe that these kids drove off the road because they were so fucking tired of driving. Right. Like, again, like that's another sense of realism you get right off the bat here is just like, and then the fact that they have to steal gas, just to get where they're going.
Yeah. And they're kind of off the grid at this point. So that's important, obviously, because no one knows exactly where they are, which plays into later, when they get into
they
trouble.
set that up because Anton Yelchin's character, Pat, when they're doing the interview with Tad.
You got to be there. The music is for effect. It's time and aggression.
Technical wizardry.
And it's shared live. And then it's over. The energy can't last.
They're definitely punk rock. And they'll play a show wherever, as long as you pay us. And me and Josh have been there many times where you think you're going to get paid. And they go, well, all we got was $6. I've definitely had those shows where they go, well, here's your cut of the door. It's $25.
He sets them up this show. Apparently the show that they were going to play got canceled. We've been there before as well.
My last show at the Muni Center didn't end well. Lots of vomit, some fecal matter. Got a backup lined up, lunch, 50% cut on the door, and you guys would headline.
But Jason and I have a similar experience to that. You remember that show we played in Destin, where it was basically the front of a restaurant that had this like little gate around it. Mm-hmm. Like we were totally not expecting to play a place like that at that point in time. And it was like, and just the fact that you gotta deal with, okay, I'm gonna play a show today, and it could be in the front of a fucking restaurant, not playing on a stage in front of people, not getting any money because there's only 6 people there, you know.
The one thing I did like about the food thing, and Josh remembers this, we would play a place that was out on Panama City Beach called Sea Level.
I know Sea Level,
dude. Yeah, the one was when it was on Front Beach Road.
Yeah.
You could play and you got like half off the food plus a bar tab. And dude, the club sandwich was the bomb. That was the best part about playing the show there. This club sandwich was like this big. You could only eat half and then go play the show, drink beers, and eat the rest of the sandwich to soak up the alcohol.
And they took care of the bands too. Like they came, you got your food half off or whatever, and they didn't skimp. It was almost like if they knew you were with one of the bands, they hooked your ass up.
They took care of you.
I have a question. Do you guys think that the interview kid set them up on this? I mean, I know he got them the show, but do you think he had ill will towards them doing that?
No.
Or do you think there was no way he could have known what was going to happen?
A naive kid that's trying to promote and trying to get himself out there because he's not in a band and doing his best, and he felt bad. I mean, we've had that where people like tried to promote a show. They really didn't know what they were kind of doing. And they're like, hey, I'll get you on another show, and blah, blah, blah. And which it's happened that way a few times. But I really don't think he had any clue. I don't think he knew it would turn.
Bands go in and out of there all the time. The problem this time was they witnessed a murder.
Yeah.
It's not like murders happen there every day. They just, they walked in on the murder, and that's what set all this off. They would have been fine.
Yeah, they could have just.
Yeah.
I mean, I think if anything, the way it was set up, they might have got their asses kicked before they left for being who they were on stage.
Yeah.
I think that's what would have happened.
Yeah, old Worm might have done something.
Well, that's another thing that makes them being stuck in that green room and at that moment with that other band even more tense, is because they went out there and made this punk rock statement saying "fuck off, Nazi punks," and then they're trapped in this fucking room with a Nazi band.
Well, isn't that a Dead Kennedy song?
It just adds to that tension.
Yeah, but they said it was a cover.
It's a cover. Yeah.
And then they went into, but you remember what Tad told them? Hey, play your older, heavier stuff. And it went over great, man. The people were moshing and everything like that. You know, they were getting into it. So, I mean, but they're full of skinheads. I mean, I think we played a show. I don't know if you were in the band at that time, Josh. I think you were, but it was over in Tallahassee, played somewhere, and there were a lot of guys walking around with red suspenders on. And we were told, and I didn't know that growing up here and where I did in Texas and going to that part of Florida, I didn't know anything about the whole skinhead music scene in that off and on in that area.
Yeah.
I was just told, don't pick fights with anybody with red suspenders. Don't make any snide jokes. If they're wearing red laces, don't look at them. And you're like, oh, okay, what the fuck's going on? I had to have it explained to me.
And honestly, that's another thing about this movie that I really love is that shit is in here, but they don't explain it to you. But with the way they frame their shots and the way they shoot certain scenes, it just tells a story. You know, that exchange when he gives the guy the red laces, he's like, you earn these. It's like, you don't have to have it explained to you. Like, you understand what's going on there.
And,
you know,
I mean, it's worth saying this movie's really beautifully shot. We're getting a little ahead of the beginning, but the stuff there are moments in the beginning when they're kind of establishing our characters. It's not a lot of time is spent. This movie is like 92 minutes long. Beautiful. Love it. I was
sweet,
like,
love it.
My wife, I was like, this thing is 92 minutes, baby. Breezy, easy, breezy. But, you know, and
like, do you think that has something to do with like how you judge a movie? Like how
100%. Yeah. I'm thinking this is why I like horror so much, is because so many horror movies are like 90 minutes long. It's incredible.
Back in the 80s, it was, or in the 80s, it was like 80 minutes, hour and 20.
Sure.
That's all you got. But then you got the Batman we just watched 3 hours.
Yeah. But there's some really nice shots of them, you know, driving. There's some shots of them kind of joking around with each other, and you can see that they're all kind of good people. They're all, you know, maybe they're a little rough around the edges with their lifestyle, but they establish that they're all good people for the most part. They're all pretty nice to each other, and they kind of razz each other, but they take care of each other, you know.
You have a female in the mix with the band too, which gives it a little more variety.
Right, they're nice,
and she holds her own in this too. Like, she's great.
You know, like they establish very nicely and concisely through visuals and through a few drop lines that they're, you know, we've got a pretty good group of people here. They're not really trying to cause any trouble.
Now, this is going to be one of the like artsy fartsiest things I've ever said on this show, but you know, a lot of people, especially on YouTube now, you got these people that'll dissect a movie and tell you what each shot in the movie means and all of that. And there was a shot as they're driving up, like you're explaining, where they drive past a gate that has a lock around it, and it's in the middle of the woods and whatnot, but you see the van go by, and I was like, that fucking shot tells the exact story of where they're going right now. They're going to be locked in a place where they can't get out in the middle of the woods. I started getting really fucking like scientific with it, but I was like, that's kind of cool. Like it's cool that you can take a simple shot like that and idiots like me can just be like, that shot tells an entire story.
Yeah. There's another little bit of foreshadowing when I think it's Tiger, the singer guy, says in the interview, I won't live to be 70.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They're living this kind of carefree lifestyle, and it's going to bite them here in a minute, you know?
Literally.
Yeah. In his case, literally.
A couple of them.
And the other thing, and this is something else. Like, while this seems like a very straightforward movie, I feel like there is little hidden things in it. When they do the interview with the guy and he's talking about his social media presence and why they don't do that sort of stuff, and they seem very analog. They're not of the digital age. So, in theory, The reason they end up where they end up is because they go back for technology. Because they leave the phone in the green room.
Technology bites them in the ass.
Interesting.
This is a technology is bad sort of message. Like, again, I got a little deep watching it.
That's
this
interesting.
time.
What were you smoking? How much?
But in the sense, that is interesting. But at the same time, you know, if they were all over social media, they wouldn't be able to. They wouldn't have even tried to kill them and disappear them because they would have been too.
They noted that hey, they really kind of don't exist anywhere. But here,
the
last person they talked to was Tad. You know,
there's a couple things like that I was looking at too, Josh, where I was like, what does this mean exactly? The dog, for instance, I felt like the dog was important. But we'll get to that. I
guess that's where my film snobbery is starting to come into play now, is I'm starting to think about shit like that watching movies now. Like, what does all of this stuff mean? Maybe because society is telling me to do that now from watching YouTube videos about it all the time. The other shot that I really like in this is when they go out on stage and they're playing and the crowd is moshing and dancing to the music, but it's got this orchestral score underneath it.
That's what Pat was talking about in the interview, right? Music is a shared experience and then it's over. And you know, after you watch this the first time and go back and watch it again, you realize this is their last performance, right? So that moment's special for a reason, and I think he takes his time on that and lets them enjoy it before things get bad.
And what I thought was cool is they're up on stage playing. They're actually playing their instruments.
Jeremy rang me up the week before we were about to start. He sent us 4 extremely fast punk songs played by professional punk bands and said, know these in your sleep.
Yes, that's another aspect of this movie. Like, the realism there is like, okay, this is going to be a movie about musicians. We're going to make sure we're catering to them as well. And I watched the behind the scenes on this, and the band, they really learned how to play. The drummer and the singer had never done anything with music before, but the girl and Anton Yelchin had played guitar and bass and whatnot. But yeah, they played a show as the Ain't Rights at like one of their film parties, and performed on stage. Awesome. Like, they wanted that to be a real performance.
I thought that was cool because you're watching it, and like me and Josh have made this statement back in La Bamba and stuff like that. You can tell when they're actually playing, and it's really good. I mean, I know it's music over film, you know, like that, but they're doing a good job. I mean, it's very believable. Like you said, the Pat's character and Sam's character both played guitar, and I like that they made Sam the guitar player. He's the guitar, but she's not the drummer. She's not behind a kit.
Right.
She's not the bass player standing in the corner. They put her up front with the guitar, and I was like, I like that they did that. They let her be up front a little bit, you know, and she does last for a lot of the movie.
This is by far one of the best horror movies I've seen of the last decade.
I was thinking after watching this again last night, I was thinking,
I don't even think it's a horror. I consider it a thriller.
I think it's a horror movie through and through. Like, it is a horror thriller, I guess you would say. Like, there is a thriller aspect to it, but this totally works as a horror movie.
I think this is one of the best movies, period, in the past 10 years. For me, one of my favorites anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it's catering to a crowd that's perfect for Jason and I and musician as far as being musicians, and then just like, again, like something that's set in realism like this is, and it knows what it needs to do and it does it well, and it's great. Like, it so much puts you in that moment that when shocking things happen, you're fucking shocked that you're watching it.
I think the thing that shocked me the most is him saying, get the shit out of the hallway. That's a fire code type thing. Because I've heard that so many times. Keep your instruments out of the fucking hallway. And I'm like having flashbacks. Get the drums out of the fucking hallway. It's, you know, the fire marshal comes through. We're getting in trouble. We're shutting the show down. That's what's scary to me. I was having flashbacks of that shit.
So, some Slayer on the soundtrack on this one, Jason. Did you catch that?
Dude. Oh, yes. I could hear War Ensemble playing in the background. I knew exactly what it was when it came on. I was like, yeah. And they even did. All right, yeah. Let's ask the question. What's the band you would listen to on a deserted island?
I love that. I love that they set that up throughout this and that it's the through.
Tell someone who gives a shit.
I could have swore that he said Pink Floyd at the end, but I like it. I like it better that you never get to hear. But I love that they set that up, and that is like a through with the band throughout this entire movie, and it ends the movie perfectly.
They all at first they're all saying they're punk rock.
Name your desert island band.
Only one? Misfits? No, The Damned. A Fuck It Misfits.
Poison Idea.
Chromex.
That's a good one also.
But when the shit hits the fan,
All right, fuck it. Simon and Garfunkel. Desert Island Band.
Prince. I'm still in Misfits.
Yeah.
See, your life's coming in. You're going to be honest now. I'm not trying to be hardcore.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Dead Kennedys or The Exploited or something like that because it's punk rock.
Yeah.
But the one guy did stick with the Misfits. That's so.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm sticking with the Misfits.
I'm still sticking with the Misfits.
But I love the Imogen Poots' character. She's not even part of the conversation when it starts, but it's such a thing in there when they're about to do what they're about to do that she's like, and I love her response too.
Madonna and Slayer.
Yeah.
And
I like that
She is so badass in this movie. Like, I love her in this movie. I like her in pretty much everything I see her in, but she's so cool in this movie.
I did not realize she was the girl from that movie. I can never pronounce it. The Bavarian. I did not realize that. So I did my notes and I'm like, oh, it's the same girl. Because you really can't tell with the haircut and everything. I really didn't know who she was. Because I just watched that a couple weeks ago and I've seen Green Room a few times. And I didn't even put the two together. And I was like, oh, damn, she looks totally different. But she does a great job in this.
The thing is they set this film up and you're going along, you're just along for the ride. But when this shit starts to hit the fan, you really start to put yourself in that situation. It's like, dude, what if you walked through a fucking door and saw this shit? And, he could have played it cool. He could have tried to play the situation off, but his first response was to fucking duck and run, call the cops.
Yeah.
Like, it puts you in a position where it's like, dude, did he make the right decision? Couldn't they have played this a little better? Couldn't he have been a little more calm about it? But it's something about that, like, adrenaline rush. It's like, what do I do in
Everyone
this situation?
acts pretty naturally in this. All their reactions to violence feel natural too. They're just regular people. They're not used to seeing all this stuff. A lot of times in movies, you have death and violence everywhere, and people, you're in a movie, and people react to it very mildly or don't have a chance to react to it. In this, people are getting sick. People are completely reacting in a very natural way. And in the heat of the moment, you wouldn't necessarily be super rational and think every scenario through. You'd panic and try to call the cops. And they panic a lot in this, and they make a lot of bad decisions because they don't know what to do. They're scared. I think not just our main characters, but also the bad guys at times get nervous, get freaked out. We're not dealing with ice cold terrorists like in Die Hard or something. These are, even the Nazis are kids.
Know. Well, there's a thin line there because it's like, I agree. There's some of them that are like, maybe they haven't gone as far, but like Patrick Stewart and the couple of guys below him, they've done this shit before.
Patrick Stewart and the dog guy, are ice cold.
And the guy from Cowcatcher, the band, when he's talking to
Pat, that guy, Worm.
There's a couple.
Yeah, Worm's a scary dude. Yeah.
Even Gabe, the guy that's right underneath him, he's kind of a little freaked out, but he's still like, hey, we're just gonna go ahead and call the cops.
No. Gabe doesn't like any of this from the get-go.
But
Gabe's freaking out.
He's like keeping it under there. They're all just talking but like the band from Cowcatcher, they're back there. They're just like, so what? There's a fucking girl here with a damn knife in her head. We're gonna go play a show.
Okay, well, here we go. This brings me to a point anyway. So now that you guys are saying this, but yes, I agree. Those characters are ice cold. But I was just noting that a lot of the Nazi members are young, fresh-faced actors. They're not grizzled. They don't look like they've been in even the guys with the red laces have baby faces, and I don't think that's an accident. I think they're cast for a reason, and they're trying to say that these young people are being manipulated by Darcy and the other people, and I think this movie, I think that's where the dog comes in, where it's about training and manipulation, and the dog still loves its owner, even though the owner taught it all these horrible things. I think there's some tie-ins there, but when this movie came out, the biggest thing about this movie when it was coming out was what? What was everyone talking about? The only notable actor in this film, Patrick Stewart. This was the movie where Patrick Stewart was a Nazi. That was the top thing. Green Room, is that the one where Patrick Stewart is a Nazi? Because you'd never seen him be so awful. He's such a beloved actor. He's a very progressive guy.
Well, let me say something though. Like, from the moment he comes on screen in this movie, he is terrifying.
Okay,
terrifying, calm.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Really?
I think the scariest individual in this movie is Worm. He creeps me out. Okay, he's scary.
He's pretty creepy looking. So.
Your set was pretty good. What was the name of your second to last song?
Toxic Evolution.
It's fucking hard, man. That's the one I did her to.
He's intimidating. He's scary. I think Patrick Stewart is out of place in this movie. I would have rathered an unknown actor play Darcy. I think I would like this movie more.
Well, I did read,
and I really like this movie.
Yeah, and I did read that when he read the script, he was deeply unnerved.
At some point in the story, I poured a large scotch because the script. It was so unsettling.
I think that's why one of the reasons why I like this movie as much as I do
is Patrick Stewart,
because he's not supposed to do this. He's not supposed to be in this.
That's
movie
all I can think of is this is Patrick Stewart being a bad guy, and he's always a good guy.
No, dude. I think he turns on that. I think he turns it on really well in this.
This might cost you your livelihood, Clark. As long as it doesn't cost me mine, you're covered.
I'm glad we're disagreeing. I enjoy disagreement. Maybe it's because I watched basically all of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and he's Jean-Luc Picard to me, and I can't.
It very well could be. I did not watch all of those.
But maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. I just love Patrick Stewart too much to like him in this movie.
I liked him as Professor X, but that's what I mainly go with.
That I guess that's a generational thing. Is like who is Patrick Stewart to you? Is he Jean-Luc Picard? Is he Professor X? Is he the Nazi from Green Room? But I understand what you mean, Eric. Like that could absolutely be a distraction for someone that knows him that way. But for me, like, I liked the fact that Professor X was stepping out of the Professor X thing for a few minutes and doing something a little off kilter.
I don't think he's necessarily bad in it, like his performance. I think it's just the distraction of it's Patrick Stewart doing it.
You were waiting for them to release the dogs and him go engage. That's what you were waiting for, and it didn't happen. And it would have worked. If he would have said it, it would have worked.
Yeah, I want to be like, Gabe, tea, Earl Grey, hot.
But that's the other thing about his performance here that I really love too, is you can tell that he is a terrible person who's done terrible things, but he also has that sort of sweet grandpa feel to him as well. Like the whole conversation with them between the doors.
I'm getting hoarse. Can you hear me if I speak at this volume? Okay. Now, you're trapped. That's not a threat, it's a fact.
Well, we have a loaded gun. It's also just a fact.
We have plenty more guns on hand. We just want you out, not harm.
Oh yeah. He's bringing the level down so no one's yelling. He's getting one voice. He's manipulating them. That lovable grandpa vibe is what gets all these young Nazis to follow him. Yeah, he's a scary individual because he is in full control. He's never upset. He never loses his temper. Even when people are getting sliced and diced, he's like calm as a cucumber. Nice. That's
what makes him scary to me.
He's scary. He's scary. I'm not saying he's bad per se.
Yeah.
But I think this movie would be better if it was just an unknown creeper.
Yeah.
A good performance, but from someone else.
Yeah. Now, the one you brought up, Worm, the singer, dude, that part when he picks her up by the knife that's stuck in her head and drags her across the floor to get his knife. That's probably one of the most disturbing scenes, even in the horror movies I've seen. You're like, fuck. He is pulling a human body by a knife that's stuck in her fucking skull and
in front of her like friend and
it's people he don't know. He doesn't care.
But your description of that is one thing that sounds terrible. The conversation they're having about it makes it that much more terrible.
There it is.
Oh my God.
Emotionless, like just cold, like, oh, there it is. Like,
Willie doesn't care about anything. He's a nihilist.
Oh, that must be exhausting.
Yeah, Worm is a nihilist for sure.
You get them in this dire situation. They're in a room full of people that are absolutely out of their minds. They don't know who they can trust, which is where Imogen Poots' character comes in, because she seems like she's affected by this as well, but they don't know if they can trust her. Like, I love that there is that distrust there with someone who's genuinely trying to get out just like they are. But I'd love when shit hits the fan that she's the first one that's not afraid to get her hands dirty.
I mean, she has more kills than anybody in this movie, I think, right?
It's fucking hardcore.
She kicks ass. And speaking of her kicking ass, I love, and you can insert the clip.
Yo, quiet, okay? Justin, don't move. Nobody move. No, if we get all behind here, nobody talk.
Careful now.
That is the fucking coolest shot.
Like, holy shit. What a badass.
If the cherry does something you don't like.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
That's another one.
It's a great idea too.
Big Justin.
Yeah, Justin.
And fucking what's our freaking drummer Reese is Mr. MMA over here.
Yeah.
Georgia St. Pierre guy over here, putting him in the freaking arm bar or some shit. And
got him in the arm bar.
I was like, damn, bro. He's fucking hardcore. I mean, he does it immediately. Like, okay, this guy's done this before. He's had some problems. He's been fighting for a while. He's definitely doing the whole punk lifestyle. Like, I don't care who the fuck you are.
And they do great with setting that up, too. And I don't think that they overdo that either. It's like he's pissed at the restaurant when they don't pay him enough.
They show that he's willing to fight even before he gets there. Yeah. You know he's the one that's going to fight if any of them are.
He's the guy that, you know, when the negotiations go south, you're not getting paid like we used to do with Scott. You send that guy in to go get your fucking money. Yeah. It's like, send them in.
But I you know, the whole back and forth between Patrick Stewart and the kids it does such a great job of setting up tension, and you don't know where this is going to end up.
Is the thing in this movie, right? It builds from that point when he walks in and witnesses the death, and then it really elevates and elevates and elevates and elevates, like to the point where, and they of course keep having to come back to the room after like failed attempts to escape. It just ratchets up, and it's not that long, so you don't have to have this big lull in the middle of the movie like so many movies have. It's a wild ride.
It's not like in Leprechaun where they go back to the house 5 times and you're like, how many fucking times are they? Like, you understand why they have to keep going back to this room here. It's, you know, it's the title of the movie. Like, I love that aspect of it too. It's like, this is your safe haven. This is what you're going to get you through this, you know. But before we get to the moment of this movie, let's do a little bit of cast talk.
Almost Famous.
I know that, dude.
I don't know them. I know her.
Haven't you ever heard of that guy? What's his name? That guy who was in that movie that was out last year?
I'm sort of famous for being almost famous.
It would not be right for me to not bring up Anton Yelchin when we talk about Almost Famous.
Yes.
Rest in peace. Unfortunately, this was his last theatrical movie before he passed away.
There's a few from him that I have not seen. I am a fan. I like him. I love him in this. I think he's excellent. I can't imagine this movie with anyone other than him. He's perfectly cast in this film to me. And he's excellent in the Fright Night remake as well. Thoroughbreds.
Odd Thomas and Burying the X. Check those out.
The first time I saw him was in Alpha Dog. That movie Alpha Dog with Justin Timberlake, and that was pretty good, and that was the first time I really took notice of him. He had been in a bunch of movies before that, but like as a child actor.
Terminator
I think.
Salvation.
I like Salvation. I don't think it's as bad as everybody says it is.
It was all right.
It's the last good Terminator movie.
But I wanted to bring up Aaliyah
I think that's close.
Shawkat. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but I've seen her in quite a few things after this, and I think she's making a pretty good name for herself right now, especially in the the indie.
I remember from Whip It
indie movies
and the Drew Barrymore roller derby movie, and The Runaways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and she was in Final Girls,
right?
I think, too.
I need to rewatch that. I remember liking it when I watched it the first time, but I haven't rewatched it since. The singer for the Ain't Rights, Tiger, he's kind of big right now in the Harry Potter world. He's in the Fantastic Beasts movies. He's
nerd. Anyway, what about David W. Thompson, Tad, the guy with the vacuuming guy?
I've seen him somewhere, but I looked through his filmography and I can't place what I've seen him in before.
For one.
Oh, he was in Gotham.
He was in Gotham.
The TV show. I remember him there.
He's in Blue Ruin as well. Probably worth mentioning old Gabe here, Macon Blair. We already kind of mentioned he was the lead in Blue Ruin, and he was in Murder Party as well. So he's obviously followed old Saulnier around. So that's cool.
You see what he's going to be doing next? He's directing the Toxic Avenger movie.
No shit.
He's actually going to direct it.
Who is? So Macon Blair?
Yep.
Gabe. Oh, really?
It says right here.
Oh, yeah. Filming. But it doesn't say director.
It says director on mine when I looked it up.
Oh, it is. Yeah, director. Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
I've also seen the dude who plays Big Justin somewhere before, too. But
absolutely. He's in Parks and Rec.
He was in Jurassic World and Hills Have Eyes, too.
Hills Have Eyes too. That's one I started and stopped. And I love that Hills Have Eyes.
I like the remake. I like
but...
the first remake. Yeah, part 1.
Yeah, the first remake.
Part 2. Yeah.
I tried to watch part 2, but I couldn't. It was too bad.
It's kind of like watching Wrong Turn 24. Because I think that's where they're at now in those movies, or they've started them over now. I don't know. I think Patrick Stewart. I barely know that guy. Patrick Stewart. He's kind of a newcomer.
I knew I've seen him somewhere, but I didn't think he was famous enough to put him down.
You know what's funny is I remember seeing him as a kid in another movie before Star Trek.
A kid?
Yeah, I saw him as a kid. Before.
You saw him when you were a kid?
Yeah, when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah. He was a kid.
Because he was pretty old before he ever hit the scene.
And it's a movie I would even like to do because it's a movie I loved as a kid. It was the movie Excalibur. 80s.
He had hair in that.
A little bit.
Right?
Just a little bit.
He had some hair. Yeah. Did you guys ever see the I know you're not Star Trek guys. I watched like all of the Next Generation with my dad growing up. They started with Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard with a hairpiece, and they were going to have him have hair on the series. So you can Google it and you can see him with hair.
He's in the captain's chair with a hairpiece.
Yeah, and he's got the hairpiece, and it's like, oh, this is all wrong. Bro, this is the Federation. Okay, the Federation of Planets. They're an advanced species. Racism has been cured. We're not going to, men aren't going to be wearing toupees at this point. We're an evolved society, okay?
If you're bald, you're bald.
You're bald, you're bald. Bald is beautiful. Think of how many women loved Jean-Luc Picard. Oh, guy was a playa.
Dude, he was People's Magazine, sexiest man alive. What, at least
he absolutely was. Absolutely was.
There you go.
Well, I think you guys...
Here's a question. Josh, I'm going to interrupt you one more time. Just hold it. Shh. Hold it. Hold. What do you think of his accent in this movie? Is he trying to hide the British accent?
Yeah, he's trying to hide it.
But it's not really because he still sounds British. I was just like, just be British, or I don't know. Like,
Eric, why are you trying to find shit to fucking diss on in this movie, man?
It's weird because I love this movie a lot, and I love Patrick Stewart a lot, but his accent in this movie is sketchy.
It's like his character. I think it fits the character. You don't really know.
Yeah, where is he from?
What the fuck is it?
No,
with
you
this
can't
guy?
do that if
Where
you're leading an alt-right gang. You have to be like America first, man. You can't sound like a.
But that's the other aspect I love is like he is who he is in this movie, talking the way he talks. But these people, you can tell these people fucking respect this guy and would never do anything to cross him. And the people that do end up in a bad spot.
Hey!
But no, I think the guitar player girl, Aaliyah Shawkat, I think she's got a bright future ahead of her.
You say so.
I would say if Anton wasn't, since he's not with us anymore, I think he would have been. I think he could have kept going.
Absolutely. He was
on his
doing
way.
Great.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I mean, and I'd say Imogen Poots is doing pretty well for herself.
Yeah. Give me more
right
Imogen Poots. I think she's great and everything. I like her a lot.
All right, guys. So we've been mentioning when this movie takes a turn, and here's where it takes a fucking turn.
They should not have given the gun back.
There's a lot they shouldn't have done. Now, however, I do like the conversation back and forth. Yeah. I think, like, I don't even think I would have thought that when they're talking about getting the gun back, he's like, all right, we'll give you the gun, but we're keeping the bullets.
What fucking sense does that make?
They obviously all have guns outside.
Yes.
But again, I think it was the wrong decision. They would certainly take it back if they could, but I think they're trying to get out of this without violence. They don't want to escalate things. I could see myself making the same decision, just being like, yeah, we could probably get out of this, right? We can get out of here without, and they don't realize quite how bad things are for them.
From the point that they say
it's naivete.
But the point when they say, hey, we'll give you the gun if you give us a phone, and they say no, fuck no.
That's it right there.
I am keeping that to protect myself.
Absolutely.
That's probably the start of a dumb decision
as there. Soon as they said, no, you can't have the phone, you go, okay, I'm in shit now.
Yeah,
like I have to.
The thing is, guys, is they know they're in shit. Like, what other choice do they have?
But that's the thing is they
like,
know they're
that's
in
where
shit.
They're at.
You fucking start laying fucking 5 big ass bullet holes through the door when they start coming through, and you do whatever you can to survive. But at that point, that's a dumb mistake, because why won't they give you a phone? They obviously know that they don't want you to make a call to the police or anybody else. So therefore, they know they're going to detain you. You know they're probably armed outside because of Amber's in the room. She's already kind of told you what's kind of going on.
Yeah. And at this point, you're stuck in this room with armed people outside. You don't want to give up your gun.
Protection. Why give up your gun? I would not.
That's another reason I love that she's there. Is she's there to they don't know if they can trust her, but she has information.
They could shoot us at any time.
Yeah, but they haven't. How do we even know that they have guns?
They have guns. No question.
We're gonna trust you?
We've got zero leverage.
Ask for a phone.
They've got guns. You're fucked, But yeah, from the moment that fucking arm went out that door and when it came back, dude, I remember in the theater when they pulled that fucking arm back in the hole. Oh
I thought he was done.
Dude.
Like I thought he was just gonna bleed out and die right there. When first time we saw it, I was like, he's dead.
Dude, I'll give props to that too. In this movie, is whoever did the special effects makeup for the wounds that happened in this movie and the deaths, top notch, because that looked real. Mm-hmm. It looked like you could see fatty tissue from the arm and everything opened up.
The wrist.
And we get a good shot of that later when Amber takes care of Big Justin. Shot too. But man, you're like, oh my God, with this Pat's arm all laid open. And
I think the pacing of all of that happens really well too, because you're just really kind of reeling from the shock of what you just saw on his arm. And that shot when they show his wrist and it splays open and you can see the meat hanging out of it, like,
yeah, his hand is hanging off. It's useless.
If there's one thing that's unbelievable in this movie, is that he's able to do anything with that arm throughout the rest of this movie.
I was actually watching closely this time. That was one thing I wanted to do, was watch the arm and make sure he didn't use the hand for the rest of the movie, and he doesn't.
Yeah,
the only thing he ever does is he
Yeah.
holds onto the shotgun with his forearm. But he never uses a hand for anything. It is gone. There's no way this man can use his hand. I love that moment of panic where they're all freaking out. The arm gets broken, like everything goes to shit in that moment. We talked when we were talking Green movies, we talked about Wreck, and it reminds me of Wreck when shit hits the fan. Everyone's freaking out, and I love how that is captured. It's hard to capture properly, I think. I also like it in You're Next, when the attack on the house happens. There's these moments in these movies, and they all seem to resonate with me for some reason, where shit hits the fan and everyone's freaking out and shit's going on. Boom, 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 boom. All these different things are happening, and you're just like, holy fuck.
when she cuts Big Justin,
Yeah.
Jenny and I were and you know, all this shit's going down. And again, like Jenny, I don't think has watched this since the first time I watched it with her. And she's watching it this time, and she let out an audible when she started slicing up his belly, and it just starts to flay open. Like she audibly gasped because she was not expecting that shit.
It's not a quick slash; it's a slow.
And what's funny, I mean, like I said, the realism in that. I mean, I don't know if you guys have ever had to
slice someone's stomach open.
Well, no, skin a deer or anything like that and cut through fatty tissue. That's how it opens up. Dude, imagine cutting a pork loin long ways.
Yeah. Sure.
It would just peel open. And the guy who did that makeup job, fantastic.
Yeah. All the effects here are great, and they're all makeup effects, you know, obviously. So
it looks so real. You're like, ooh.
Yes.
And when I remember watching it this time, I've seen it a few times, and this time, and I think I just got to eating dinner. And I get there, I was like, yeah, that's good.
You know it's coming, but when it happens, you're like, you know,
awesome. Yeah. But I mean, even before this too, we kind of skipped a part where they actually went down and they found the basement where they're making all the drugs.
Yeah.
Because that's where Tiger comes back with the duct tape for his arm.
Yep. Good call, Tiger.
Now, do you think they needed that in here? That's one question I have about
the heroin.
The heroin room.
Well, but that's why they're so freaking out about what's going on. They're not worried about the murder. They're worried about what the shit is in the basement. And I think that's a cool twist. Like with these A24 films, we always get some kind of twist. That's a twist. It's not the murder they give a shit about. It's the fucking drugs in the basement that they're scared of. They don't care that that guy stabbed her in the head. They don't give two shits.
Yeah, they say that in the movie. It was never about us. Yeah, it's about the
never
drugs.
it was about the drugs in the basement.
But the thing is I think you could take that story element out of this and make the same movie.
I agree. You could probably make the same movie. It wouldn't change much. The only thing it does is give us a new location or an extended location for them to
we get to move
to do a couple things. It just otherwise we'd be in this room the whole time.
Yeah.
So it gives us another area for a set piece. And they do play with that with like dangling the body down and things like that, hiding in there. And they've decided to frame these kids as they came on their land to siphon gas, and the dogs got them. So that's perfectly legal because they're trespassing and the dogs.
And the thought process of this is Darcy, he's like bam, bam, bam. He's laying it out.
It adds another layer to like, okay, not only are these kids fucked in the situation they're in, they're not even thinking about what they're being framed for outside of all of this. Like just the way all of this just intermingles and
and it keeps it very you know, all the blades and stuff, which are part of what make this movie so gnarly and awesome, is all the hatchet or the machetes and the box cutter and all that stuff. It's because they don't want bullets. They don't want cuts
traceable
on the bones. Yeah. They want to say dogs ripped them up. So they can cut them with knives. Don't hit the bone, he says. You know, if you shoot him, you got to dig the bullet out because, you know, we're going to say the dogs killed him, not a bullet. So,
or even when they get to, they get three of them and he's like, okay, we can make do with the fourth. We don't have to explain him. He can go missing. Like, they have thought this shit through.
Yeah.
Man.
We can just bury him out in the mountains somewhere. Yeah.
Well, it's like when they get Reese, you know, he's bleeding out because they ask him, is he still breathing? Yeah. He says, well, that'll change the time of death. Let him bleed.
Let him bleed.
Darcy is that maniac. I mean, he is fucking
cold.
That's
dude.
why I think he's scary. He's just sitting there, laid it out that this is how we get rid of this and not get tied to it.
Yep.
But dude, that dog scene when they first let him in there and you know what's going on, and that one goes in there and gets hold of Tiger by the throat.
Ugh.
Ooh, and dude, the makeup on that when you see him walk away and you see his neck all chewed up, it's like
it's gnarly. And you know, we talked not too long ago about Texas Chainsaw and the I forget the guy's name, Kurt. Anyway, the guy that, you know, he gets hit with the hammer and he's like twitching and you know, Tiger twitches and takes little breaths, little death throes or whatever that is.
Little gurgles come out.
Yeah, he's gurgling and he's not quite dead. Stuff like that where it's, you know, in another movie it would be dog jumps on guy, he's dead. But in this movie, he's not quite dead. He's just dying.
Yeah.
and he's trying to breathe through his bloody neck hole and he can't. That's where like this movie gets a little extra and gives you the willies, you know?
Well, that's even like the part with Big Justin in a typical horror movie where she cut him, blood's going to just pour out.
Right.
No, they kept it pretty real because that's kind of how it happens. I mean, you just kind of open because you got a lot. He was a big guy, so he's got a lot of fatty tissue.
And it's a razor blade, so you're not going to be breaking a lot of, you know, like it's going to be a pretty clean open cut. You're right. Everything about this, it doesn't pull punches. It lingers on the violence. It lets you see it, you know, and it shows how ugly.
I mean, this is also
and not just not just in the effects, but also in everyone's reactions.
When people die in this film, I want the audience to be a little confused.
Listen.
I want them to be shocked and not roaring and clapping. I want them to feel the impact. As long as they experience it at that heightened level that other kind of films can't do, I'll be happy.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's where this is also another turn is, you know, we're starting to lose our main characters we're following throughout this movie. We lose two of them right here. Boom, two of them
We
gone.
lose two, and you have to go back to the room. You've gained nothing. You've gained nothing except you've lost two friends.
Right.
And you have nothing. You're still stuck in there. Oh my God.
God, dude, just you saying that is like making me God damn.
Yeah. I know,
rough.
dude. That's part of why this movie's so badass. You're just like, God damn, this shit sucks.
I don't know about you, Josh, but I was with the dog. The fucking microphone feedback was killing me. Dude, that is
that's a great detail.
Oh,
though,
yeah.
Right?
But
I mean,
noise.
Hey, can we talk about how Quiet Place ripped this movie off? Let's just say it. Quiet Place ripped this movie off.
Oh.
Ooh.
Is this a Christopher Stolen thing?
This is a John Krastielzy. No. Sorry, I had 1 second to think of that. That's all you get.
You did all right. I give it about a 6 out of a 10. That was pretty good.
I'll take it. Yeah. Again, the analog kind of helps them out. Pat's clever. He realizes that the dog doesn't like it, and he uses it to his advantage. One thing I want to talk about is the Rick Silva story.
I was about to say the same thing.
I love the Rick Silva story. It is so true. I've actually been there. I've been paintballing where like elite paintballers were going nuts and destroying me. So I know how that feels. And I did not have my Rick Silva moment, unfortunately. I just got my ass kicked. But Pat's right. If you're trying to out the military, it's not going to work. If you're trying to, so you got to just like confuse the shit out of them, be crazy, be nuts. And they disassociate with this when they play war, right? They are so scared.
Yeah.
They are terrified. This allows them to feel like they're playing. It allows them to disassociate from their situation, and it helps them deal with it. And it keeps them alive, which I love that story. I just skipped over Sam's death, but I love the Rick Silva story.
And the funny thing about that story, it was put in the film because it was a story that the director had actually been involved in. He put it in there. It's a story.
Rick Silva is an actual person.
Oh, really? Even better. You think of, have you ever played someone or, like competed with somebody in a game and they're new and they don't follow the conventions of what a skilled player would do?
Oh, they'll kick your ass every time.
And you'll lose them. You'll be like, how the hell did I just lose? It happens in football, right? Or sports. Like a lesser team will pull out some crazy trick play and end up winning the game. When you're playing at a high level in anything, you're expecting logical decisions from your opponent. But when you do something cuckoo, like put war paint on your face and shave your head and hide in the couch, you might get the upper hand.
Yeah.
You see.
That's funny. You did that as a sports reference, and I'll take you back since me and Eric like to talk the foosball. For instance, the Saints playing the Colts in the Super Bowl went to kick off at the kickoff after halftime. They did an onside kick.
Yeah.
You don't do that.
You don't do that. You
just don't. And guess what? They won the fucking game.
Yep.
They won a Super Bowl from doing that. But that's the thing. It's like you do like what they're doing. You do shit that you don't do.
And for all intents and purposes, it's a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're just gonna roll the dice. It's a high risk, high reward option that is the only way you can win, because you can't just line up straight and win. You have to take a risk.
Yeah. But before that, I want to talk about, they actually got help from one of the skinheads, Daniel, because we find that Daniel was actually with the dead girl in the room, Emily.
And he's the brother of the kid they were staying with the night before.
So what do you guys think of that subplot? I mean, that makes sense.
I think it works in that moment, because I mean, it gives you a glimmer of hope for the characters. But I'm going to tell you what, this movie got a fucking jump scare out of me.
That one? Oh, yeah. That's
the shotgun?
When Daniel gets behind the bar and they just fucking shoot him right out. Dude.
And not only that, it wasn't a gut shot. They shot him in the side of the fucking face.
Yeah, they blew half his head off. And
you're like,
yeah,
yes.
Like you said, it's a glimmer of hope in a very dire movie, like a very bleak film, a bleak situation, and they give you a little glimmer of hope. You're like, oh, they have a chance. Whoop, nope.
Here's your little rope, Rambo.
Take it away.
We're gonna take it back. But then this leads us to them running back to the room, and they're in the
again
situation.
a second time they've had to retreat with nothing.
Yeah, and we lost Sam,
and that's when we lose Sam.
But you heard them when they ran outside. They were shooting at him. You know, Darcy, he said, "Don't shoot Amber."
Oh yeah, because I mean, she's kind of the part of the reason they're in all of this, because she's part of that subplot. They also do a great job of tying up that story within this movie too, of like, why was Daniel leaving town and all of that shit, and then they find the bat in the back in the trunk of the car. Like, they've thought out all these little aspects that they've kind of set up throughout this movie, and they close them up for you.
Yeah, and
too.
that little subplot could be something in another movie that we'd say, oh, cut it. But it's very concise. The storytelling here is so quick and clean. You never feel like there's fat on the story that can be trimmed. It's so tight.
They trimmed it on Big Justin. They trimmed it.
Yeah, they trimmed him down.
They trimmed Big Justin down. He's a couple pounds lighter.
I was saying earlier that this works as a horror movie, and I think a lot of that is due to some of the shots in it. Eric already brought up the one where she lights the lighter. The other is one you mentioned just a second ago, is when she crawls out from underneath those couch cushions and starts creeping towards that guy.
She pulls out the box cutter
right there.
Like, dude, this girl
awesome,
is
dude.
badass. Like, she's like, I've already killed with this once. I'm ready to go again.
Yeah.
She's kind of scary. She reminds me of the girl from The Ring coming out of the TV, but she come out of the couch.
Oh, it's such a badass moment when she has all the greatest like badass moments in this. She creeps out of that couch. She's just like, oh shit. Like, she's like a freaking like a puma and creeping on its prey.
Yeah, when the one guy's looking up.
Yeah, when the dude's down in the fucking heroin room and he shoots at her and he thinks it's her and she uses the fucking girl's dead body.
Well, I even thought even before that, when they're talking and he's looking up at his buddy, she just goes, cuts his neck, done. And it just
has one of my favorite lines or exchange of lines in the film too.
Got him.
Totally flabbergasted that motherfucker.
Totally flabbergasted that motherfucker. Excellent line. Just like confused the shit out of that poor bastard.
This movie has hints of comedy in subtle places, and it's shit like that right there, you know. And that's what another aspect of this that I just love.
Comedy interjected, like with the little quotes. Mine is when the two little skinheads, the newbies, come walking in.
What? Who is that?
Odin himself.
Odin himself.
I was like, I love that shit. That was fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my favorite ones.
Yeah.
And it's you don't even realize it, but Pat doesn't even kill anybody until the end.
Or does he kill anybody?
No, Amber takes care of everybody.
No, he does kill. He kills somebody at the end of the movie.
At the end of the movie,
yeah.
At the end of the movie, he does.
He kills Darcy.
Yeah, he's the kill shot.
She shoots him in the leg.
He gets that last shot.
But yeah, she kills everybody except for Darcy is killed by Pat. So that's his first kill. So Amber has a pretty good body count by the end of this movie. She's a badass, dude.
Oh, she's the MVP of this movie for sure.
She is 100% the MVP, dude. Pat doesn't survive without old Amber. They're all dead without her. She's not a Nazi. She just hangs out with Nazis. Okay, so give her a break.
I had to tell Jenny that. She was like, "She's a Nazi." I was like, "No, she's not. She wouldn't be doing."
No, she said she wasn't a Nazi. She had a hard upbringing. Listen, it's no excuse. Don't hang out with Nazis, people. Nazis are bad. Fuck Nazis is all I'm saying. That's all I'm trying to say. Really, if you think about it.
The first time you guys saw this, when they set up the thing with the dog, how the one dog gets wounded and runs away, like they said, but did you guys think that was going to lead to anything or like seal the movie up with an unhappy ending the first time?
Yeah, yes, I thought they keep showing the dog. You know, it's coming back. It's Chekhov's dog, and he's going to come back. But it's an interesting way that it ends. Like and especially like now that I have a pit bull of my own, we're watching it. We're like, oh, it's so cute.
Okay, let's put out a public service announcement to people out there that don't like pit bulls. It isn't the dog that's bad. It's the owners that make them bad.
Right. Like, what's his name? Clark.
And that's the other thing. They kind of like put that last little piece on top of the movie when that dog comes back. And even though he put him in this situation, he comes back and lays his head down on Kurt's arm. Like, it still tries to give you a gentle feeling about the absolute monster that was just killed on screen. You know what I mean?
Maybe I'm over analyzing, but I feel like when the dog lays down with Clark, that is almost, we've at this point we've bested. I mean, I guess we're to the end here. Our two, Pat and Amber, have escaped. Old Gabe helped them get out. He says he wants to go to jail. He's seen the light. He wants to get out of here, thankfully. And they decide to go after Darcy, and they kill Darcy. Which, what do you think about him just walking away, turning and walking away? It's isn't it a little strange?
I think he was thinking they wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I think it was too. I think he was thinking they won't.
You're not gonna fucking shoot me.
It was arrogant, his arrogance.
It's funny. You were so scary at night.
How the tables have kind of turned, and like it's a cool fucking moment.
Well, dude.
No, I agree. And Pat's been scared shitless the whole time. I mean, he's been more scared than his bandmates through most of this. Yeah. He is not your typical protagonist. Yeah, he's a good person.
He's not a hero. Yeah, like
and he's in a very violent situation, and it makes him so endearing. And Anton Yelchin plays it perfectly. Yeah. You almost don't even want him to shoot Darcy because you want to just keep him innocent. You know what I mean? And Darcy takes his innocence, and I think there's a sadness to that, and I think there's a sadness to the dog laying with I forget his name every time, Clark. I think that's almost saying like, I think that's a negative message. Again, maybe I'm reading too far into it, but I feel like that's saying, when you expose someone who's misleading people, they'll still come back. And you see people going back to the Trump rallies now after all that shit, and they're still thinking 2024, and you're like, come on, guys. We're just gonna do this again.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the dog. I thought he was gonna come back and lay on Pat's lap.
Yeah, that would have been cool too for a different reason. That would have
been really cool for him.
That would have been a more positive perspective. I think this movie is bleak.
I think that would have been too sincere.
Yeah, and
I think it would have been too sincere.
And same with the last line of the film where she says, "Tell somebody," like, no, they're not friends now.
I love that too. Like, they've just been through this shit together. They've had to rely and trust one another.
A desert island band.
So you would think by the end of this, they've built that relationship. It could end on her saying, who?
Tell somebody who gives a shit.
Yeah, it's a ballsy ending, but I think it's fucking amazing.
I just don't think that this movie is optimistic. You know what I'm saying? And I think the dog is that last line is that it's not optimistic. It's saying this shit happens and it's going to keep happening. And
well, Jason, whose tagline is it anyway?
Yeah, it's whose tagline is it anyway?
Where the taglines are made up and the points don't matter.
Okay, well, we've had an ongoing competition where I do these taglines. Hollywood and me write our own taglines here, and Josh and Eric try to guess whose it is. I haven't actually added up the score, but I think Josh is still winning. But all right. First tagline. To them, music is life. Too bad it can be short.
You wrote it.
Yeah, I think you wrote it.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay. Life is about choices. Now live or die.
You wrote it.
That's vague. I think you wrote it.
I did.
He tried to throw us with 2 fakies in a row.
Maybe.
Will you do a third fakie?
I don't know. I've been playing a lot of Texas Hold'em lately. Let's see if I can bluff you guys. Let's see. This won't end well.
I think it's fake.
I know it's fake.
You're both right. It's actually a lyric from a song from the band me and Josh are in.
Nice way to tie it all together there, Jason.
But it does fit with the movie. There you go. All right. Wrong place, wrong time. Try to stay alive.
I'll say that's real.
Yeah, that sounds real.
I wrote it.
Oh, he gave us 4 fakies in a row. What an animal.
Now, whatever you saw or did is no longer of my concern. But let's be clear, it won't end well.
I guess I'll say real.
It is real.
It's real. That's more like a quote.
It was hard to find these for this movie, so. And fight, fight, fight! ... for your life.
What? These all feel fake. This has to be fake. I'm going fake.
Yeah, I wrote it. Dude, y'all tied. 5-5.
All right.
Because there was only one tagline for this movie.
I'm coming for you.
But, all right. Check back in next week. We'll see who wins.
Well, if you were looking up Green Room on Rotten Tomatoes, it would have a 90% on 90% fresh on the tomato meter.
Pretty solid.
75% audience score.
Bullshit. That's bullshit. Way too low.
Way too low for the audience score, for sure.
This movie is excellent. I love this movie. I like it more every time I see it. We had a good month, minus Leprechaun, but Alien and this, like, put those babies. This movie, for being something that just came out in 2015, like, I love it. It
checks all the boxes.
Speaks to me. Yeah, it does. It does. It's some gnarly violence. It's got some tension. It's got great performances. It's got some good humor, style. Cinematography looks good. Direction's great. Music's good. Yeah. 92 minutes.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, Rotten Tomatoes says if you like Green Room, you might also like The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that?
I have. It's good. It's not as good as this, but yeah.
Jigsaw. I don't think that's a good recommendation.
That's garbage.
No.
Stupid.
No.
The Bay, which is a found footage movie about sea creatures.
Haven't seen it.
I have. It's not that great. Stoker, Park Chan-wook's Stoker.
I've not seen that.
Mia
But I have it.
Wasikowski.
I own it. Haven't seen it.
It's a good movie. I don't know if it would pair well with this movie. And Goodnight Mommy.
I have not seen that.
Haven't seen it either.
I have seen that. And it's different, but again,
I would say You're Next would pair well with this movie. It's got a similar tone as far as like, it's brutal. There's some kind of clever humor to it. It's got good music. It's got good gore.
I mean, I figured Josie and the Pussycats would be in that list. I mean, I think it ties in well with this movie.
Yeah, Fern Gully.
Yeah,
you freaking weirdo.
That Thing You Do. This would be a good one to watch with That Thing You Do.
That Thing You Do. Man, that's hardcore.
I love when they cut Tom Hanks's belly open.
Oh my God.
On that note,
Top Kills.
I quit. I quit, Mr. White. Right up his gut.
Jason's going to pick the person that was killed by the bat prior to the events of this film.
Yes! How did you know?
So, Jason, you get to start all the top kills from this point forward.
Let's see. I'm gonna go with the one that I actually had a note about, and you mentioned it earlier. Daniel getting shot in the face.
That's mine.
Ooh.
See, and that's why I did not want to do it.
Well,
share a brain.
Why not?
It's okay.
It's interesting. Why not? Because fucking, it's an awesome kill in this movie.
It is. It is. It's a great moment.
But the problem is
love
then you get to you and Eric, and you could change them if you really wanted to. So we should all say them at the same time.
Well, that's not mine. Mine is Dennis. Derek? What's his name? The belly cut. The belly cut.
Big Justin.
Justin.